Brought to you by Penguin. A Wedding in the Country by Katie Fforde. Read by Tuppence Middleton. Part 1. Chapter 1. London, Spring 1963. "Garlic should be the same size as an hazelnut in its shell," said Madame Wilson in her strong French accent. She was looking at a collection of pale, curved shapes on a plate in front of her that could have been toenail clippings, given both their appearance and Madame Wilson's look of utter disgust. Lizzie regarded the despised items. She had no experience of garlic. It was one of those things her father regarded as foreign muck, and so had no place in her family kitchen. And yet just then, Lizzie was grateful for her father's fondness for good plain cooking, for without it, she wouldn't have been sent to London to do a cookery course. So here she was, in a rather cramped basement in Pimlico, with 9 other girls, being lectured by a Frenchwoman who, if first impressions were anything to go by, was fairly terrifying. Almost everyone was wearing a white buttoned-up overall, covered by a white-bibbed apron, as specified in the prospectus. Madame Wilson had moved on to olive oil, and the outrageous fact that you had to buy it in chemists' shops. Lizzie gathered this meant that olive oil had another function, apart from use as a cure for earache. Madame Wilson seemed to despise most ingredients available in England, and Lizzie couldn't help wondering how she managed to live here when it was obviously a culinary desert. She surreptitiously studied her fellow pupils, hoping that at least one of them would turn out to be friendly, otherwise her time in London might be lonely. Most of them seemed to be very aristocratic, with smooth white skin, their glossy hair in elegant chignons, fat ponytails or discreetly backcombed so it rose smoothly from their foreheads and ended in perfect flick-ups, a style she had never managed to achieve herself. Under their all-covering garments, glimpses of cashmere and silk could be seen. They wore pearls round their necks and in their ears. Lizzie had a string of pearls, given to her by her godmother, but they were for best, not for every day. She had to ask her mother whenever she wanted to wear them. One of the girls was a bit different. She had ignored the white overall and instead wore a blue-striped butcher's apron over what seemed to be a man's dress shirt without the collar. She was wearing black cigarette pants and round-toed shoes which buttoned up across her instep. Her long hair, glossy like the other girls', was tied up into a pile on her head. She had a thick fringe which gave her a look of Audrey Hepburn. She was wearing pearls too, but hers were much larger, twisted round her neck like a rope. Lizzie suspected they were fake, and she warmed to her. She was just as glossy and well-bred as the others, and yet she wasn't as haughty. This girl was looking around the kitchen as if she didn't quite know how she got there. Another girl caught Lizzie's attention because she was writing everything down with single-minded attention. She sometimes asked questions, and judging by Madame Wilson's response, they seemed to be the right questions. She was obviously seriously interested in learning to cook, not filling in the time until the next social engagement which, going by the snippets of conversation Lizzie overheard, was what most of the other girls were doing. When she caught Lizzie's eye, she smiled, shy but friendly. Lizzie began to feel more confident. "Now, girls, you know it is easier to cook good food if you are accustomed to eating it. However, I know that many of you are not experienced in a kitchen. You may be forbidden to enter because your cook doesn't like people interrupting her." Lizzie gulped inwardly. Her mother would hire a cook for the evening if she had to entertain her father's business colleagues, but she did all of the everyday cooking herself, often helped by Lizzie. "Now, I'm going to take you through the batterie de cuisine. Each of you will introduce yourselves, and then I will see if you know what each item is for." There was an inward gasp of horror as the haughty Debs looked around, obviously aware of how little they knew about kitchen equipment. Lizzie was anxious herself. Her mother had a cooking set consisting of a ladle, potato masher, long fork, and palette knife that hung in a set on the wall. They had been a wedding present, Lizzie knew. If she was asked about anything more complicated, she...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?